Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just wanted to note and comment on a very common word that many dua use, which is when we're speaking about sin, somebody saying it's a choice. This is a very dangerous word because many times people would confuse between what is an irada kawniyya to mean that it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given you the choice to choose, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually told you man sha'a falyu'min wa man sha'a falyakfur. You can believe, you can choose to believe, or you can choose to deny. In other words, free will. But free will is not to be confused with al-irada al-shar'iyya, is not to be confused with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He commands. What does that mean? So there's al-irada al-shar'iyya to mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَلَا يَرْضَى لِعِبَادِهِ الْكُفْرِ, and He does not accept disbelief for His servants. In other words, there is a difference between a choice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given you the free will, but that doesn't mean if you were given the free will to choose to do or not to do, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the right thing to do. And this is extremely important because many times when you would see a da'iyah, actually, I would say, quote and use the word a choice, it's actually wrong to use simply because, or even Muslims to use, because when we're speaking about sin, the terminology a choice actually traces back to the atheist understanding that, hey, since we are matter in motion, therefore we cannot have laws that curtail or that stop people's free will from doing what they want. And that's why you're seeing the LGBT, for example, use words that they are born that way, or it's a natural thing that they find, this is how they feel, because they considered that feeling or inclinations are basically the major and one of the most important, if not the most important source for knowing the world and understanding the world. Therefore, the free will, in the inclination, is actually to mean in this context that it's their own right to practice their inclination, and therefore you cannot stop them. Now, this totally contradicts, one, the understanding of Islam, the legal maxims of Islam, and definitely the Aqidah. Because in Aqidah, to actually consider that anything that you feel or anything that you necessarily have an inclination to is necessarily right because you feel that way, which is al-irada al-kawniyya, based on that your own free will, and to actually think you cannot judge them, etc. All these different things is actually very dangerous because it contradicts Sharia itself. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophets and the messengers in order to explain what is al-irada al-shar'iyya, what is the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ruling on it, what is al-irada, the irada or the will of the Lord Almighty. So that's why it's really important to understand the context of what we say. The Western context today comes from an individualism. It comes from that part of atheist understanding that everything and people, including people, they are part of everything because they are also matter in motion. But in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us abatha, did not create us in absurdity, and did not create us with no purpose. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Sharia and legislature in order to explain to man what haqq and what the irada shar'iyya and what the Lord Almighty wanted of us. This is really important to explain because unfortunately we're seeing a lot of youth confuse the two terminologies and actually think that it's a choice to mean that we cannot judge the action. A choice, according to many, the youth today, and the confusion that they fell in, to say a choice is to basically mean of course, to them that we cannot judge, therefore, we cannot ban or use legislatures to stop this behavior, no matter what behavior that is, whether we're talking about alcohol or whether we're talking about hijab, LGBT, and the list goes on and on. So in Islam, it's really important to identify and distinguish the two. If we don't distinguish the two, we definitely have our understanding of Islam and our understanding of Sharia totally confused. Remember the two terms, إرادة كونية and إرادة شرعية. Assalamu alaikum.